we are going to add payments to this little app. I built this for a local brewery here in town, and it helps them come up with ideas for beers to make. They pick the season, they pick the beer type, and it uses AI to come up with ideas. Right now, the app brews up these ideas and just shows the ideas. We are going to add the option to let people see the beginning of the idea and then pay to unlock the whole recipe here with all of the cooking instructions and everything like that. That is our journey today. Now, I have already thought of what I want the payment integration to be, and that is this, basically $2 to unlock the recipe. It creates these recipes, and then people will be able to see a preview of the recipe right here. Then they can click to unlock. And then we will use Stripe for this and Windsurf for our build. Couple bits of context. Originally, this app was created in Replit just for the design because I liked the design it made. And then I immediately pulled it down locally to my computer to actually build out the functionality. But that's basically the state that we're at right here is it's local. I have also deployed it to Railway, but we're going to work on the local version here. And it will run if I have it online. Right now, as you can see here, the app is offline, right? So the first thing we do is go into Windsurf and we are going to open our terminal. Now, if you don't know the run commands for your app, you can ask the agent to tell you your run command. Or if you know your run command, which this is most commonly your run command for all React apps like this, you just npm run dev, and it's going to pull up on port 5015, which is here. So easy as that to run the app once you have it pulled down locally. And I like to test it to make sure we have our feature set, our default feature set running. I don't know if I necessarily want a summer porter, but it might be a fun beer. See how it goes. There we go. This means that our API is working. The app is functioning as we want it to, and we're ready to start adding our payment integration. Now, when you go to add a payment integration, the AI that you use will know something about the API. We're going to use Stripe in this case. The AI knows something about Stripe integrations. In this case, it is Claude 3.7 Sonnet, but it's going to have outdated information because it was trained a while back. So it saw documentation maybe a year ago or 6 months ago, or depending on the model, 2 or 3 years ago. You want to make sure it has current information. To do that, you will generally go find the documentation. So you would do something like Stripe API integration or React. This is a React app. If you don't know what your app is, just pop it in here. What kind of app is this? React or something else? If you built it in Replit Lovable Bolt, 95% of the time it's React. Unless you gave it instructions to do like a Python app or something like that. But you just give it a prompt like this. Then you have your Stripe integration info right here that you could read and tell the AI what to do for the integration. I'm going to show you a little tool that I'm about ready to launch for all of y'all. So it'll be a free tool to use. And it's this API integration accelerator. And what this does is you tell it the type of API you want, and you can be generic about it. Just, roughly Stripe API. You tell it what you want to use it for. And then it goes out and searches and finds all the documentation and writes you an integration guide that you can paste into your coding tool. So this will be available soon. I'm just going to copy that real quick here. So I have that guide. I ran this one. Then I want the Stripe API, use it to collect payments in a React app. And then it generated this prompt here that I can give to the AI. And it basically what you're looking for are these, how to initialize it, how the responses are sent and received so that it doesn't stumble over it as much. You still have the potential of the AI going a little off the trail, but this really helps keep that in line. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my plan and basically have a rough idea of what I want to do. And we're going to go over here and prep the AI. Please look over this app and understand the structure and how it works to generate recipes. Do not make changes. Right here, we have our app that discovered what it's doing. Okay. Basically here, we are loading up the context because AI has no memory whatsoever. Those of you who've been here before know I say that a lot, but it cannot remember anything. You have to load everything into context that you want. And then your goal is to manage that context window and keep it small enough that the AI does not get lost in the context. We're going to say this: do not make changes. I want to add payment integration with Stripe, and it will do the following. And then I'm going to paste in this integration idea, this functionality that I want. And I'm going to edit this a little bit. When people generate ideas, they will be able to do this. And it's going to show the abbreviated recipe, creates immediate value perception. Users can see quality before paying. After payment, users are redirected back to the page with the recipe shown, not to the page that is empty. Now, this is something I added because I know about the app that I built. And this app does not currently use a database. It uses in-memory storage, which is fine for an app like this because it's just generating info and then you refresh the page and it does it again. It's not trying to store user info or anything like that. But what's going to happen is when you use in-memory storage and it goes out to a payment gateway, if you don't tell it to store and pass that information back like this, it's going to end with the payment gateway and try to bring people back to the page to see the recipe, but it'll be the start over page, the fresh, no memory loaded page, and they'll lose the recipe they paid for. We'll see if it gets that right on the first build or if we're going to have to restate that fact. Want the styling and functionality remain the same, and then tell me the variables and I'll put them in the .env file with Stripe keys. Okay. Last thing I'm going to do is tell me if you understand this task. And if so, I will provide you with Stripe integration instructions. And then finish with do not make changes. There's one piece I forgot. Review all associated files and functions and routes to make this possible. Okay. So we're loading it up with our task, what we want to do. Send that over here. While that is thinking, we're going to go back to this and recopy this because I dropped it out of the clipboard. And I want to show you how to do this in Stripe in a way that you can actually test all of your functionality and never affect your main Stripe account. Because you don't want to be sending tests that break or fail or have incorrect information to a live Stripe account until you have the integration fully working. And Stripe actually makes it very easy to do this with Stripe sandboxes. So a Stripe sandbox is something that you can create once you have a Stripe account, you can just click this little button up here and it gives you an option to make a sandbox. That's what I have created here. And a sandbox is really cool because it's completely isolated from your account. You can do all the testing you want and it will not affect your main Stripe account. It doesn't create fake customers in your account. It just is a really clean way to manage this. And you get API keys that are safe to demo. Like in this case, I'm going to have the API keys pulled up on the screen here. And it doesn't matter because I can just shut off this sandbox when we're done and the API keys go away because they're just demo keys. So once you have your sandbox and it's over here in a little drop down to create a sandbox or switch sandboxes, then you go to developers. You can see your keys here to copy, but the first time you load it up, these keys won't show. So you just go over here to developers and grab your API keys right here. Okay. And that's where you get those for demonstration. We're going to go over here and take a look at what we need. So it says we need to work with the idea cards, payment related types, handle payment state and redirects, have a library for the Stripe integration, server routes. Okay. So it's telling me that we need a webhook secret and a Stripe ID. I'm not positive that we're actually going to need these, but let's give it our documentation here and see what it says. Do not make changes. Here's our Stripe documentation. Do we need the webhook? May or may not. And we're going to say, do not make changes. And let's have it look over that and see if you do end up needing the webhook. Again, we're in our dashboard here. We can create a destination in here, and it's going to give us an endpoint. For testing in a local environment, we have to do a Stripe login. So I'm hoping it'll create it without the webhook for us. Let's do it without the webhook in this case because we're on local. And that just is an extra adventure that you don't need to go through just for this sort of project. If you are doing things like a lot of future actions based on statuses, maybe you're triggering automations and things like that, the webhook is a good idea. But setting it up for local, you have to go through and set up your CLI interface. So we'll save that for a more advanced integration later. Let's do this without webhooks. Do you have all you need in order to proceed? And let's go ahead and put in our information here into env file. I have the OpenAI API key in here already. And this is basically, you want to include it in your git ignore so it's excluded when you push the information up to GitHub. You don't want those keys going out there. And I didn't copy all that information. I'll copy this here, paste it in. We're going to just delete this one for now, the webhook secret. We have our $2 price. And let's copy these keys over from Stripe. So we have a publishable key right here. And we have a secret key right here. And we're going to save that file. It shows you a little dot. Like if I do this and put a space, this little dot tells you that it's not saved. And this is a pretty common thing in VS Code for any model you're using. So we're going to take that space out and save that back. All right. Going to tell it I've added the keys. Added the keys and price. There we are. And we're going to tell it to go and let that run for a second. I'm curious here while that's running about, let's see here. It's going to tell me more about it. With a command like this, because I didn't tell it to not make changes, I did that on purpose. Sometimes it'll run off and start working, but it looks like it has some questions here. But asked about this right here. Is there anything specific about the abbreviated recipe format you'd like to define? So if we go back over here, I wanted to show the recipe overview, the first 3 ingredients, and the first 2 brewing notes. So the recipe overview, first 3 ingredients, and the first 2 brewing notes, and fade out, blur out, or show them as expandable after payment. Okay. And again, we've got context loaded up, so it's okay if it takes off and starts doing this. Let's make sure it runs. It's doing an implementation plan. All right. We have this here. Match our existing UI, UX, and proceed. This is that session management I was talking about to make sure it remembers the recipes when it comes back. It's acting like it's in planning mode. Really wants to talk about this. Okay. It's writing out the files. All right. So this is something that AI will have good days and bad days. Right now, it appears to be having a verbose day where it wants to talk about stuff. Doesn't want to execute a task. So at this point, we've had a pretty in-depth conversation here. And in my opinion, the context window is getting pretty full with what we're trying to do here. So it's going to write all this out and it's giving me ideas about what it's going to do, but it clearly is resistant to doing the task right now. So what I'm going to do is let it finish its description of the task that it's going to do. And then we are going to copy this response and bring it into a new chat so we have fresh context to actually do this build. Because this is at this point too full, in my opinion. You could proceed here, but I think it's going to get lost at that point. And I want to start a new chat. And I'm going to switch models out of thinking because this one's feeling like it's just wants to be chatty today. All right. So we're just going to copy this whole thing. You could have it write this in a markdown file if you want. If you're not going to do this right away, you could have it write it in a markdown for later. So we're just going to copy up to here and we're going to do a new chat and please assist with this task and go back and put in that H that I didn't copy. Let's give it a tiny bit of context. Let's make sure that we have all of our info here to accomplish this. Let's copy our idea back. There. And we've already got already in the environment. Switch models. Let's just drop out of thinking mode and send it on its way. Make sure it reads all the information. Now, for the sake of example, since this was built in Replit, I have executed this same process in Replit. So you can see how Replit executed it. And then we can compare with how Windsurf is doing this and what it comes up with at the end. So let's make sure this gets running and then I'll show you what Replit came up with for its implementation of the same instruction set. Checking the components. Here we go. We're getting our edits done. Let's go take a look at how the app change looks in Replit so we can compare. We're going to do a sour summer beer, I guess. Run this through. Now, there is a piece that is, once you have payment processing in place, you need to be able to send receipts. And going through an app like this to set up its own SMTP sending tool and setting up your own SMTP server or integrating with Sendinblue or SendGrid or whatever you want to do is a lot of extra complexity that you don't need. The way I always do this is once the payment is set up and we have the confirmation route built that triggers the ability to access whatever was unlocked, then you go in and just tell it to add a webhook option that sends all of the customer information to a webhook that you give it. I always just send those webhooks to GoHighLevel, puts everybody in the CRM, and I can handle all the automations, send them the receipts. And now they're also on a list if I want to set up opt-ins and things like that. So it's just a really easy way you can do that much faster than trying to add a full integration for email for every single app. Okay. Inside So it's delinting. Inside here is how Replit put this together. And so it shows the key ingredients plus 5 more, brewing notes, 3 more steps, right? And gives us the information here. And then when you click unlock, it takes us to a secure checkout right here. And this is the Stripe integration. If you haven't done testing with Stripe, you can use their test cards. Let me pull them up. And they have a bunch of test card numbers. These are the Stripe test numbers that you can use. So you can test each type of card. And basically you put in the test number and then any digits, any 3 digits or 4 digits and any future date. It will run through as long as you are using test keys. Those won't work on regular keys. So just look up docs.stripe.com testing and you'll have the card numbers here. The thing to have in hand. So if we go over here, the Visa one is 42. And then you can just basically 1, 2, 3 this all the way through like that to get your test and process the payments. And then we have our sunset berry blitz. See, these are still locked. And the one we unlocked is right here. Something that I think that for user experience, I would consider adding in the future is to send this information, the entire recipe, to the webhook so that I could send them the recipe in an email as well in case they refresh this page and lose it, or even add some sort of account feature so that their paid for recipes are saved on the site as well and they can log back in and see them. Potentially both. I would start with the email and the webhook. That's a very easy way to make sure their purchase is documented and they receive it. Okay, it delinted our routes. Now, didn't fully delint the routes, did part of it. And it's setting up the rest of our information here. Let's make sure the app is off. So you can see over here if your app is running or not. You won't have your command available here if the app is running, but it's offline right now because it's been editing the files. And when you're using Windsurf, it will go through a bunch of tasks and then you get here and say continue. And this is how they manage costs on their end. It will do a total of 20 tasks. And then it will continue. And now that is considered to be another prompt from me. So it uses a prompt credit and will proceed on. That's how they've set it up to keep it from overspending on their end. So if you see that continue, that's what's happening. I think this might be interesting to see if that error gets resolved or not. If you are using a platform like this, like a Windsurf or Cursor or KiloCode or anything like that, you will, and you want to go and add an integration here, you're going to want to make a branch down here. So make sure GitHub's connected and you have everything synced up. But then like right here for this, I made a branch and you right click on the branch you want to, or on the commit that you want to branch from and just tell it create a branch. And then now all of your changes will go into that branch. And since this is published on Railway, I don't want to make these changes to the Railway branch until I've tested them. And then I can merge those in GitHub. I can do a pull request and test them and merge them after the fact once I've tested it locally. And if I don't like it, I can always go back to the main branch and start it again. Keeps you from breaking anything. See what we're looking for here. It says that this is started on port 5015. So what I like to do for one is relocate this terminal session over here so that if I need to interact with it, like for example, if I just want to kill it, I don't have to type in and ask the AI to, I don't have to use a prompt credit. I can just hit Control C and that turns off the app. And then I can run it again. npm run dev. I want to check and see if it ran install. Yeah, so it ran npm install to update our packages. And now it's running. Let's take a look at what we have here. And it appears that it's erroring on run, which is not surprising. We just made a bunch of changes. So what you'll do here to debug this, see how long this conversation was. We haven't done too much in here. So we are going to copy our issue here and say, do not make changes. It is erroring and showing this in the logs. You paste in the log I just copied out of here. Review and tell me why, after you look at the files, do not make changes. Just want to make sure it loads up context and doesn't go trying to break something along the way. See if we got the integration instructions. Pull products from products and high level. V2 private API, pull products. Okay, got our OAuth, which is your client ID and client secret. I know that's correct. And it shows you how to start that interaction, which this is what you're looking for when you're trying to provide information to your AI about an integration. You want to give it the exact formats if you can, so that it doesn't guess at formats based on its knowledge. And then it shows you the endpoints, specifically the product one, and it's going to give you all of your product information from that endpoint. And this is how you would get the particular product based on the product ID. Gives us an example of what it would come back like. Response examples are important too, because your coding tool needs to know how that information is coming back and what to do with it. So this gives you an example of how that information is coming back and what to do with it. Error handling gives us our common errors that are available, the responses that are in the API. Oh, nice. It gave us Node.js and Axios examples because I did not specify what type of app. So it pulled a couple examples from them. And what's neat here is most AI coding tools, if you give it some example of how the integration would work like this, it can translate it for your particular code stack, as long as you have some formatting examples available. And then it has the basic documentation for 2.0 in here available in case you need it. Now, I have done this particular integration, and this looks pretty close to correct. So that's, as far as the general idea, that's pretty much on point. That's cool. Okay, let's see here. So right here, it decided to use Toast, and it says it's not installed. We're just going to check, is there another notification system in this project? Do not make changes. Let's just see if it just made up using Toast, or if it lost the fact that Toast is here, or if there's something else that we need to use. And it's looking for Toast, which is, look, we have Toast. Did it say up here that we didn't have Toast? Okay. So it just has the path wrong. It does have Toast. You could go look through your files and find it yourself if you're feeling like you want to be chasing things down, but not necessary in many cases. Okay. Toast notification system, import path is incorrect in the file. Okay. So we're just going to say, please update that import and change. Nothing else. Okay. So the first thing that it said was we don't have it. Then we had it look again. If it says it doesn't have it look again. Double check. Let's restart the app. npm run devs. See how we are doing over here. And we've got our additional errors. This is very common when you make a bunch of changes to a page. You're going to have stuff that isn't fully connected. Right here, it's saying that it's not able to load our publishable key. So we want to check our env. Stripe publishable key is there, and this matches to what's in our environment file. We are going to start a new chat. We have this error. Do not make changes. We have this error when loading the app. The key is in the .env file. Did you forget to include .env in the imports? This is a package that generally pulls in all of your environment variables into different parts of the app, and it often forgets to actually import those. So it's a common thing when you're adding stuff to this environment file. It forgets to import it. All right. We'll let that run for a second here. Let's see what we get over here. Payment integration can sometimes be, depending on the application and what you're trying to do, sometimes you can get it done in 30, 45 minutes. Almost every time I see it take an hour because you are changing how stuff functions, and it changes pieces of the app and you have to fix lots of stuff that it changed and forgot about. The fastest I've ever done it, I think, is 35 minutes on a payment integration. And it kind of almost one-shot it. But that's very rare. Most of the time, an hour or two. There you go. See where we are here. And this is running. Vite reloaded. Let's take a look. And now we have our page. So this is the local one. Make sure our generation functions over here. We'll see if our payment integration is fully connected. And here it did not include the key. This is partially fixed. Now we ran a generation and it showed this error overlaid over the recipes. It did make the recipes, and it changed our layout a little bit here, but not too bad. Then we have our unlock full recipes. And this is where it's missing that publishable key in our process. Okay. Let us see if our local one is restarted. Winter. Okay, so we didn't get that error here. Let's unlock our recipe. And this is fun because it just put it right in line for us. Using that test card, could save it with link. And there's our recipe. So we now have the functionality created and running in just under an hour, which is about how payment gateways tend to go. So then, like I said, the next piece would be to do something like this, where we add the webhook for tracking all that. And we will put that on the to-do list for our next adventure and show how to put that into GoHighLevel or any other tool that might have a webhook. You can do the same thing with Zapier or N8N or anything that can catch a webhook. GoHighLevel is just my favorite because it has all the other CRM functionality in there to help things out. There we have it. Payment integration set up and done on an app that had no ability to collect revenue, and now it does. I look forward to seeing everybody on next week's call, and we will continue digging in and learning new stuff and testing new tools. See y'all later. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more videos like this, please like and follow. And if you need help building or finishing your app, click the link in my bio to book a one-on-one Zoom call to take a look at your project.